Hello and welcome back to Perspectives, bringing you our daily dose of news and views covering the topics we hope are relevant to you. Well, today we look at the petition underway to force the Canadian Parliament to order a fresh inquiry into the Air India bombing. And one of the most senior voices in the global Sikh community warns how Sikhs are now slaves in India. We also take a look at some interesting developments for Sikhs in sport, an activity obviously very close to the heart of Sikhs worldwide, and the video of a shocking attack on a Sikh ticket inspector goes viral. Well, joining me as always for Perspectives is our very own correspondent in Canada, James Cousineau. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Angus, and good morning to all of our amazing viewers. Thanks for joining us.
Indeed, and of course, as always together, we'll be bringing you our perspectives on the daily news affecting the Sikh community across the world. As usual, we'll also take a look at lots of your great comments which have been filling in below our videos as always, so thanks as always for those. So let's kick off with James. James, what have you got to start us off with today?
Well, let's start off with some Olympic news or follow-up to the Olympics. Punjab's chief minister honored the Punjabi Olympic athletes, including 8 players of the hockey team that brought home bronze. It was a very successful Olympics for the people of Punjab to get behind the athletes, but also to see an amazing run. People of India were involved in many of the sports and many of the events, but when it comes down to it, Punjab, definitely when you look at the per capita of athletes for Punjab versus other states, they did great. Again, that helps when you have 8 players on a hockey team, but over the weekend, there was a special celebration to honor all of the players, and that was amazing because they all walked away with a cash prize, and when I say all, I'm talking about the hockey team. They were each given a cash prize of 1 crore each, and then with the other 11 athletes that were involved in the Olympics that were outside of the hockey team, they also walked away with 15 lakh each. Now, something that I find very interesting is that not only are they getting a cash prize, but they also were provided with the opportunity to be ambassadors. In Punjab, they are looking at increasing the amount of sports that's available to the citizens of the regions. Now, sports has been proven and documented, and even as far as the United Nations bringing this up back in 2020, is that if you can get more youth and residents involved in extracurricular activities, organized sports and such, it draws down the number of people involved in the criminal justice system and those involved in drug use and abuse. Now, of course, we know that substance abuse is becoming a major topic around the Punjab, but also around the world. So the commitment by Minister Mann was just amazing. In fact, that they are not only committing to bringing in ambassadors of such a high caliber as the Olympic athletes, but also that they are committing to bringing in new sports venues and facilities, as well as other resources to get kids, youth, and others involved in sports. So this could be a huge program to help to curb the drug problem and other issues that are plaguing the nation and the state. Now, of course, going back to the Olympic hockey team, congratulations on an amazing win. They came back to beat Spain in the final match for the bronze and a 2-1 win. And this was the second time in a row that they have medaled in hockey at the Olympics. So it is a beautiful thing. And it's also amazing to see that with these new initiatives, I'm hoping to see a lot more athletes from Punjab in future Olympic Games to bring home all of these beautiful medals that I think are going to increase over the coming years. Now, I just wanted to bring up a quick note of some of the athletes. Of course, we talked about the Olympic hockey team and the amazing leadership of their coaching staff, of their captain and others. But also, I just want to bring up that Manu Bhaker won the first medal for India in the Paris 2024 Olympics. She bagged a bronze and became the first Indian woman to win an Olympic shooting medal. Great news. And she also won with the mixed team bronze with Sarabjot Singh, and they won in the 10-meter air pistol event. So congratulations to them. Of course, we're looking at Mr. Cousineau added a third medal in shooting, making it India's biggest haul in a sport in a single edition to the Olympics. So again, it's just exciting for India over in Paris this year. As I said, the men's hockey team, once again, they won in 2020 at Tokyo, and then they came home with the bronze again this year. So it's amazing. Let's see them go for silver or gold next year. When you look at the, Neeraj Chopra became the most successful individual at the Olympics for India after he claimed a silver medal in the javelin throw. And of course, we also need to mention Aman Shirawat, who became India's youngest Olympic medalist when he won bronze in wrestling. Amazing, amazing results for India this year. Something amazing to be proud of, and especially for the state of Punjab, to bring home all of this national pride, but also the opportunity to instill a future and a vision for the young that they can achieve their dreams and that they can actually strive to be better and to participate in these sports with the increased access. So I hope that that's going to go a very long way in helping to curb the drug crisis, the crime issues. It's not going to be a fix for everything, but it definitely will help in terms of just giving them something better to do with their time. And I'm just going to show a quick clip from the ceremonies there, Angus, and then we'll switch it on back over to you. So bear with me a quick second here while we play this. And again, I'm not going to play the whole video. I just made a quick one so that you can kind of see what was going on there.
ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਫਾਦਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕਮਾਂਡਰ ਨੇ, ਏਸ਼ੀਆ ਦੇ ਰਿਕਾਰਡ ਹੋਲਡਰ ਨੇ ਕਮਾਂਡਰ ਚੀਮਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਅਰਜੁਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਚੀਮਾ ਨੇ ਪਿਸਟਲ ਸ਼ੂਟਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 15 ਲੱਖ ਦੇ ਕੈਸ਼ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਨਮਾਨਿਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਖਿਡਾਰੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ 15
I love this because they look so proud, but at the same time they almost look like they're overwhelmed that, just the attention and the respect and the pride of the nation watching them. So I think that it was just an amazing, as I said, an amazing Olympics for India, amazing for Punjab, and congratulations to all of the athletes that performed this year. It goes without saying how hard they've worked to achieve those dreams. So let's see even more next year.
Yeah, fantastic. Isn't that great to see? And the first thing that always strikes me when I see this is imagine if Khalistan was its own country, how it would perform at the Olympics. I think it would be quite an astounding, disproportionately successful nation at the Olympics. That's so many sports are so dear to the Sikh community at heart. Hockey, obviously, being one of them. And hockey has been a sport deeply ingrained in Sikh culture, having been played in Punjab, I believe, since 1896. So, of course, it has a huge historic connection with the Punjab. And Sikhs not only played in every Olympic Games since India entered the competition in 1928, they've been a part of every gold medal winning Indian Olympic team since then. They've captained and coached the Indian national side at the Olympics, World Cups, Champions Trophy, Asian Cups and Asia Cups. So certainly hockey, which is has such a deep connection with the Punjab and Sikhs, it's the success story runs deep at the Olympics, of course, and no surprise there. But of course, all the other sports as well. It's interesting that it's the shooting, the wrestling, it's these martial arts, it's these events so deeply linked to the military heritage of the Sikh nation. Because, of course, they were such great warriors and still remain such great warriors that they are very passionate about maintaining this connection to physical sports and physical success in sports. And I'll talk shortly about how it's being still promoted here in the UK. But it's, I think it's just a wonderful, good news story. And as you refer there, James, it's a huge fight back. It is an antidote to this dreadful scourge of drugs, which are being clearly deliberately poured into the Punjab to undermine the community, excuse me, and to try and attract and seduce the youth away from Sikhi and from anything that could pose a universal threat to the Indian government. They are deliberately trying to weaken and dilute the Sikh community by pouring these dreadful drugs into into the area. But of course, sport, physical activity is such a great antidote and a distraction from the dreadful seduction of drugs that let's hope that the youth can be attracted more to sport, as they clearly are being, than to the darker sides of life. So, yeah, a great news story there, James. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and Chief Minister Mann also stated that he's looking at opportunities to give promotions to the athletes as well, on top of the jobs that they've already been provided. As I said, they're going to be ambassadors to sport and so forth. And Harmanpreet Singh, the captain of the hockey team, is quite excited. But the dedication, hard work, and leadership that he's shown throughout the Olympics, but also during training, was just phenomenal. So congratulations once again to everyone. With that, we're going to move on to something different in terms of not such a feel-good story, and that is the incident that happened in Mumbai, where a ticket inspector on the train system was actually attacked on the train for asking someone to pay a fine for not having a ticket on the train. I'm just going to bring that story up for you, and we'll kind of center it so you can actually see it. Now, this individual, you'll see that he's being attacked on the train, and this again was because he asked a passenger to pay a fine for not having a valid ticket, and the passenger then attacked him. The passenger was traveling from Church Street to Virar, and it was just amazing how many people took video of it, and now it's going viral, instead of jumping in to help the ticket inspector. I mean, this is becoming a detachment in society. People are becoming more and more prone to videotape incidents of violence or crime and then post it online, as opposed to actually stepping in and helping someone in need. It's almost as though they are using the phones, Angus, as a filter between reality and what's on the screen as entertainment. And they put that screen up, and it's like it's not really happening. It's like they're just filming some type of entertainment for, online clicks to push up their viewers and to push up the algorithms so that they can make money off of these horrendous acts of violence. And it's a phenomenon that's hitting the world. It's not just in India, it's everywhere. And it's amazing that you even see some criminals themselves posting videos of their crimes. Sometimes of violent crimes, sometimes of violent crimes in progress, where they stream them live or they have streamed them live. And also just petty crimes where people film it and think that because they're posting it online, that the police and the prosecution aren't going to find it, that they're just going to think it's entertainment, when it's actually there's no evidence they're providing to the police and the prosecutors to put them away for however long the laws dictate for those crimes. Now, people themselves are becoming, as I said, detached, but another concern is that with the increase of artificial intelligence, videos are being posted that are not real. They're deep fakes, and they very much appear to be real. Now, because people have been programmed to believe what you see and not question it as much if you can see the visualization through images and through video. So this becomes a whole new can of worms that's being opened on the internet, where people are not only believing that these fake reports and these deep fakes are real through the use of AI, but politicians, celebrities, and others are claiming that real videos have been deep faked and used AI to create them. So they're using it on both sides. One, to deny that this actually happened, or as evidence that something did happen, and yet they're deep fakes or not. And that's where people are getting very confused. And I think that that is also pushing the narrative of confusion in youth, of believing everything they see online, but not questioning it. So it's important that you do your own due diligence when you're dissecting the information you're absorbing through the internet. And as for looking at the blurred lines, of course, we talk a lot about international interference and foreign interference. Of course, these can be created by the information technology departments of different governments and spy agencies to plant seeds of doubt, or to plant seeds of division in communities to benefit their own interests, So, for example, governments that are trying to interfere with politics can be placing fake videos online that depict the person they do not want to win in a very bad light. So again, it is something that you need to really take into account, the detachment between reality and entertainment when it comes to online videos, photos, stories, and so forth. And something that parents and teachers and other individuals need to start understanding more of this technology and explaining it to their kids and their youth, so that we have a well-informed population. As for the lead into this story, the inspector was not seriously injured in the attack, just to follow up on that, and the individual responsible for the attack did apologize, and they've all seemed to have moved on with their lives, but learning from this. So again, we hope that people will do better than to just stand there and witness a crime and videotape it.
Yeah, it's again, we see so much of this across social media. It's a scourge, actually, viral videos. And I think there are lots of issues come out of this story. First of all, I mean, this is a Sikh inspector who was attacked as part of this incident. And yeah, the question is, did they attack him because he was a Sikh? Did it make it easier to attack him? Because we know Sikhs are oppressed. We know that they are treated in many parts as second-class citizens. So maybe these travellers, ticketless travellers, just saw it as, I am encouraged to attack a Sikh ticket inspector because, well, who cares? You know, there's always that danger. So there's an element of, well, effectively it's racism going on here. Was that the case? I don't know. We don't know enough detail about the story itself. But what it does highlight is when these videos go viral across social media, people watch them and people are naturally influenced by them. So when they see some people attacking a Sikh, they think, no, it must be okay. It means when I'm involved in an incident with a Sikh, it means I can attack the Sikh, and well, it just goes viral. It's almost a joke. So what it does, it endorses violence, and particularly potentially endorses violence against Sikhs, which obviously is just unacceptable. The other thing, as you rightly point out here, James, is viral videos have become such a scourge, because whenever an incident happens, and it could be something tragic like somebody in an accident, and how often when there's a scene of an accident, it could be a road traffic accident, it could be somebody who's had a heart attack, it could be somebody who's been attacked in the street, whatever it is, the first reaction of most people now is to get out their mobile phones and film it. Now, in the old days, the first reaction of most people was to go and help, was to actually step in and help that person, whether they're being attacked, whether they need medical aid or whatever. So the first reaction is assistance. It's being a human being. Now, technology has created this whole generation of people whose first instinct is to whip out their mobile phones. Now, I'm sure psychologists can probably explain this somehow with some clever science, but the bottom line is we have a whole generation of people now who are just whipping out their mobile phones to film incidents rather than stepping in and helping. What does that mean? It means we are becoming disconnected with the real world, I think, as you've rightly pointed out here. And of course, the other element here is the whole artificial misinformation element of all this, is that now, because people are whipping out their mobile phones so quickly over an incident, is that people are realising, there's a whole medium here that we can use for misinformation. So how many fake videos have now disseminated across the internet, disseminated across social media? It's so easy now to create a fake video. It's so easy, either using artificial intelligence or even actors. And I can't tell you how many fake videos of incidents I've watched which are clearly fake and staged, but they are designed to send a message. And in the hands of bad actors, when I use that metaphorically, in the hands of people with a dangerous agenda or a political agenda, it's very easy for them to stage events, create a video that they hope will then go viral, which then spreads out misinformation. And how often this is used for nefarious, bad, malicious means. It happens all the time. So yeah, unfortunately, mobile phones, they have their uses, but they also have their ability to be abused and misused. And I think this story is very much a sign of the times, James. Very dangerous.
It is, Angus, and I know it's one that we see in the UK, we see in Canada, the US, India. It's a global it's a global phenomenon that we need to really understand, that people are becoming detached through the screens.
Indeed, they are very concerning, and I think the other message also is it's just, I think there is clearly, as we've reported in recent weeks, is that violence for some reason is rising in the streets of India. It's always been there, but it is on the rise, and for some reason the BJP seem to be acquiescing to it. They seem to be letting it happen. Why, we don't know, but it's certainly not good for any society to see violence. And the law enforcement just take a step back and say, yeah, it's okay just to have these violent incidents. It's the breakdown of society. So anyway, okay, let's move on to my first story. And one of the biggest stories in the Sikh community for decades, of course, has been this dreadful incident of the Air India bombing in 1985. And this is a story that will not lie down for very good reason. It is a story that's very deep and very close to the heart of the Sikh community, the global Sikh community, and particularly the Sikh community in Canada. And this story crops up regularly. And the good news is that in Canada, a petition calling for the Parliament in Canada to order a fresh inquiry into the incident has been sponsored by a Liberal Party MP, Sukh Dhaliwal, on behalf of members of his British Columbia constituency, the constituency of Surrey Newton. Now, the petition has been pushed by a local media figure, a person called Gurpreet Singh, who's a leading voice questioning the official narrative around the incident. And Gurpreet echoes a wider belief that the Indian state itself was actually involved in this dreadful terrorist incident. Now, the MP, Dhaliwal, has been an MP for the last 9 years, and Dhaliwal met with Gurpreet Singh about this petition about a month ago or 3 weeks ago. And then before agreeing to officially sponsor it, there's a big step for an MP to take, but they officially agreed to sponsor it on the 13th of August, so it is now available to sign on the official Canadian Commons website. So as part of his official sponsoring of the petition, Dhaliwal signed off on significant statements, including the Sikhs in Canada widely believe that this was the handiwork of a foreign intelligence to discredit their political activism and undermine their advocacy work for human rights in India. Now, the official mainstream narrative, as we all know, is that the terrorist bombing was carried out by Khalistanis, despite the fact that the trial itself that occurred afterwards yielded pretty obscure results, and it was pretty inconclusive, lots of inconsistencies. And of course, there was a clear drive at the time to find somebody to blame for this. And of course, the mainstream narrative, particularly pushed by India, was, of course, it's these Khalistani terrorists. Because at the time, of course, this is 1985. Look at the context of 1985, the dreadful attacks, the genocide of 1984. And as a result of that, the fight back by the Punjabi Sikhs, which involved including the assassination of the perpetrator of the genocide, Indira Gandhi. And then, of course, the whole uprising in the Punjab of the Sikh nation, of the Sikh community, against the dreadful oppression, intimidation and massacring, the extrajudicial killings that were going on in the Punjab throughout the 1980s. So, of course, the Indian government were desperate. They were trying so hard that they were taking every possible event that they could and twisted against. They were spinning events against the Punjabi Sikhs and Sikhs worldwide to try and smear them, to try and turn public opinion against the Sikh community. So, of course, there was this incident, this Air India bombing, which was at the time the worst terrorist atrocity in Canada at the time. And it was accused by the Sikh community of being a completely obvious false flag event by the Indian state in an attempt to malign the Khalistan movement. But the point was, as many Khalistan campaigners at the time pointed out, this sort of terrorism just did not align with other openly celebrated acts of Khalistan resistance, which targeted individuals involved with the Indian state. Of course, those targeted attacks against the Indian state, they were attacks against policemen, against the army or politicians who were known targets, who were known people to have been behind extrajudicial killings. So it was not the modus operandi of Khalistani militants at the time in the 80s to do these ridiculously indiscriminate bombings. They just did not do that as part of their modus operandi. It actually went against the whole ethos of the Khalistan movement, of the fight back, was that we just don't do indiscriminate killing. We do not kill civilians. They were very targeted killings, as their track record proves. So the whole bombing incident actually just went against the whole modus operandi of Khalistan. So it raised an awful lot of questions at the time, and still does to this day. So as a result, many groups have also openly called for a reinvestigation into the incident, especially given ongoing revelations about Indian interference in Canada. Of course, this transnational repression that has now become a very, very evident and very public again, modus operandi of India. Now, the issue has even been raised by former Canadian diplomat Bhupinder Singh Lidar. Detailed long lists of discrepancies which point away from a simple Khalistani act of terror are the basis for the ongoing Sikh calls for the incident to be reinvestigated. Now, as is often referred to, there was a brilliant book called Soft Target, which was written by a couple of Canadian investigative journalists. They wrote a brilliantly researched book which raised a whole host of inconsistencies in the official story of the bombing. And it is apparently just about still available, this book. And this book does detail some very comprehensive and very persuasive evidence pointing to the fact that this bombing was a false flag incident, that Canadian intelligence actually know an awful lot more than they have revealed about who was behind this. And of course, the book does point lots of evidence to the fact that very high-ranking people in the Indian hierarchy knew about the bombing in advance, hence why many key Indian people, Indian diplomats and so on, cancelled their tickets. They were supposed to be on this flight, but literally hours and days before the flight, they cancelled their tickets to be on this flight as if they knew that something was going to happen. And of course, evidence that Indian intelligence was behind this whole incident. And the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, say actually they have admitted that their investigation into the bombing to this day still remains open. So clearly they still believe that the whole story has not come out. So, depending on the amount of signatures that this petition receives, an official inquiry and reinvestigation may gain official parliamentary support by next year, which of course will be the 40th anniversary since the dreadful incident. The petition closes on the 11th of December, so if you are in Canada and you believe that there should be a fresh inquiry into this incident, particularly in the context of transnational repression, particularly in the context as years have revealed the dreadful oppression coming out from the Indian state against the Sikh community, it is very obvious that the Indian government behind the scenes, and of course the Indian intelligence services, have been involved in all sorts of false flag incidents, involved in all sorts of dreadful events and dreadful operations against the Sikh community, and particularly the Khalistan movement. It is very likely that there is a bigger story to tell about this Air India incident. So if you believe there should be a fresh inquiry, get your name on that list, sign that petition. Let's get this petition pushed into Parliament. Let's get a fresh inquiry open, because this could be the dam that bursts, that breaks open that huge backwash of evidence that we know exists that is hidden by the intelligence services. It is possible that all this evidence may suddenly come to light that could paint a very different story, could open up the floodgates to revealing those dreadful operations that Indian intelligence have been behind for decades against the Sikh community. So, James, this could be a very, very significant way forward for particularly not just the Canadian community, but the whole diaspora as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. This had ramifications around the world, and it is something that there are accusations and information that has come out stating that investigators at the time were told not to look at the government of India or their intelligence community in the investigation, to block that part out and move in a different direction. And no matter what the outcome of the investigation, and no matter how painful it may be for victims and others, I think it's important that the case be resolved one way or the other for good, and to get the evidence and to hold those accountable that were accountable for the what remains the worst terrorism act in Canadian history. So.
It is still, even to this day, a deeply emotive subject, as James, you reported recently at the memorial, where the family members were still deeply impacted by the tragedy. Yet there are still so many questions. Even to this day, nearly 40 years later, there are still too many questions, too much evidence still swimming out there that points to something, a bigger story being beneath the surface, and we need to bring that out. And it can only be laid to rest once and for all if there is a fresh inquiry. We need to get this information out into the public domain, or at least in front of an impartial judge who can make a fresh judgment on what actually happened. So, okay, let's move on. And wow, the chief centre of religious authority of Sikhism, the Akal Takht, the Jathedar of the Akal Takht, has spoken and made a very bold and very forthright statement recently about how Sikhs have been impacted by partition, even to this day. And the Akal Takht Sahib Jathedar Jani Ragbir Singh was at a press conference recently and remembered the 1 million innocent people that were killed in that dreadful violence in 1947 when partition happened 77 years ago. And of course it was when the Sikhs were impacted so deeply. And of course the Jathedar has referred to the Sikhs having, prior to partition, they had a separate nation once, and since partition all they've attained is slavery by joining India. So, while addressing the Sangat gathered at the highest Sikh temporal seat during a function organised to remember the partition victims, the Jathedar said Sikhs were the biggest sufferers during 1947 partition, and they lost the territory once ruled by them. And the Jathedar said the borderline was drawn on Desh Punjab, Desh being, of course, the word referring to country. So he deliberately refers to the country of Punjab. So the borderline was drawn on Desh Punjab during the partition. I've used the word Desh Punjab here because the majority, this is the Jathedar speaking, I have used the word Desh Punjab here because the majority of Sikhs do know that before independence of Hindustan, we had a separate country or territory where Sikhs ruled once. When the British came to India, Desh Punjab was also annexed to India. When the two countries were formed in 1947, the Sikhs turned out to be the largest sufferer in that development. Sikhs lost their territory over which they ruled once before. Our Desh Punjab was divided. One portion went to Pakistan, the other to India. Our Desh Punjab was divided. The Sikhs lost their assets in the Punjab and they came to India as refugees. Among 1 million people killed in the violence during partition, most of them were Sikhs. Our daughters were raped, our assets were looted. Now, the Jathedar also said, lastly, the Sikhs became slaves by coming with India. Promises made to their leaders by the Indian leaders were not delivered. We were not given separate autonomous territory. We were not given political rights in the constitution. Instead, a circular was issued by Sardar Patel that Sikhs were criminals. That is why Sikh representatives refused to sign the constitution. Now, Jani Ragbir Singh, the Jathedar, said that injustice to Sikhs continues even today. Many Sikhs have been lodged in jails for 3 decades, even after completing their sentences, and the government is still not releasing them. He questioned the Union Home Minister that he should clarify under which law and authority Sikh prisoners are still kept in jail even after completing their sentences. He also asked, why is there a separate law for Sikhs in the country? He also urged the Sikh community to renounce factionalism and mutual division and unite in the struggle against injustice. He said to tackle and prevent conspiracy to divide the Sikhs on social media and to tackle the attacks on Sikh Maryada. Maryada is a Punjabi word for customs, conduct or conventions. He said to tackle the attacks on Sikh Maryada and traditions, and Sikhs should be matured in Gurmat, that's the teachings of the Gurus, by getting initiated into the Sikh way of living and connecting to Gurbani. So this statement absolutely makes very clear and unambiguous to all Sikhs worldwide. And we've talked about this and we've debated this in the comments section, where some Sikhs have said, no, not all Sikhs are Khalistanis. Well, if you have any respect and reference to the Akal Takht, supposedly the centre of religious authority of Sikhism, this is a message clearly to those Sikhs who do not align with the whole concept of Khalistan, that the Jathedar has spoken to you and said, actually, we once had our own homeland, a land where we once ruled, and has unambiguously said, you are now slaves. You have become slaves to India, to Hinduism, to those that now control India. And some very important arguments that he's put forward here. He's referenced the factionalism and mutual division, and he's urged Sikhs to unite in the struggle against injustice. And we've talked again, James, we've talked about how politics, particularly in the Punjab, have become factionalised, have become fragmented. This is a deliberate tactic by India, who have parachuted their own people into these organisations. These people who are false Sikhs in many ways. They are deliberately put there to divide and fragment the voice of the Sikhs, to dilute the voice of the Sikhs. So the Jathedar is talking to the whole Sikh community and said, you've got to understand what's happening here. We are being divided deliberately. We must unite under the whole concept of Sikhi to fight back against this. And he said to tackle and prevent conspiracy to divide the Sikhs on social media. Again, don't be divided on social media. You must unite under the whole concept of Sikhi. So this is a very clear message to the whole Sikh community worldwide, and particularly in the Punjab, about uniting and about the whole concept of Khalistan. If there is any ambiguity about Khalistan, there certainly isn't from the centre of authority of Sikhism. This person, this chief, has sent a very, very unambiguous message to Sikhs worldwide. If you call yourself a Sikh, then you must respect the whole concept of Sikhi. You must respect your history, your heritage, an empire that once existed. You had your own homeland that has been attacked, divided, split up. Your community has been deliberately split up by your enemies. And now is the time to unite. Now is the time to join together against this injustice, against this oppression. So this isn't coming from me. This is coming from your most revered leader. I am just the messenger. So, James, I think this message could not be more clearer, could it?
No, I think that it is very clear, and something that we've also talked about previously was that for the younger generation to make sure that they speak to the elders to get, a lesson in culture and history, because they may not be aware of, all of the struggles that have been experienced by the Sikh people.
Indeed, I think the young generation of Sikhs need to read this press release and listen to these words, because if you consider yourself a Sikh, these are unambiguous. This has come from the very centre of your religion, the very centre of your community. You cannot ignore these words. You cannot ignore the messages being sent to you. You must understand what is being said and why. Again, it all comes back to the heritage and culture. One hopes, and of course, the comments section we certainly have had people, Sikhs, who have said no. There are Sikhs who don't align with this whole message. Well, again, this is very unambiguous. You need to read this, and perhaps if you still don't believe in this, explain. Come on our comments, explain why you think this message is not right. I'm sure our audience would be interested to know why you would disagree with this message. So let us know your thoughts on that. Okay, let's move back to sport. And again, this I would call it another great good news story. And this is we talked earlier about how sport is so fundamental to the community, how sport has become such an ingrained element of the Sikh society, because of course it's wonderful military heritage, and sport is in many ways it's the modern evolution of military goings on, where, you know, centuries ago we'd all fight each other. These days we fight each other, metaphorically speaking, across a hockey pitch or in a boxing ring or whatever it may be. And of course, as a result of that, Sikhs have excelled at this, and sport has become such an important part of the Sikh community. And I'm delighted to report that here in the UK, the first ever Sikh Games took place over the weekend. And from Friday to Sunday, at several venues across the Midlands of the UK, particularly 3 universities. There was Loughborough, Nottingham Universities and Nottingham Trent Universities. They hosted these events, and there was a series of competitions as well as non-sporting competitions. So everybody could get involved, even those not physically capable at the sporting events like Dastar tying, for example. So everybody got involved. And Sikhs from right across the UK competed in team sports that included football, cricket, hockey and kabaddi. I love kabaddi, a great sport to watch, as well as individual sports like powerlifting and track. Now, one of the organisers of the Games, a lady called Mandeep Kaur Moore, she said that one aim of the Games is to normalise the importance of sport in the Sikh faith. Look at Baba Deep Singh Ji, who went to battle in his 70s. We should be fit enough to go to battle at any age should the need arise. A wonderfully militant statement there from Mandeep. There has been lots of encouragement in recent years for Gurdwara football clubs and boxing, of course. And the organisers said that the Sikh Games will provide another opportunity to showcase this. Now, participants included athletes from all backgrounds across the UK, and interestingly, the Sikh Defence Network. This is an organisation that is made up of Sikh military personnel. They will be entered, or they entered a team for the cricket competition particularly. Now, interestingly, the Games have been sponsored by the British Army, the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force. So the British Forces have sponsored these Games. What a fabulous endorsement from the British Armed Forces. And as well as sporting bodies like the Football Association, British Powerlifting and British Judo. So some very, very significant British organisations have sponsored these wonderful Games. So great endorsement from the British state. And a similar concept has apparently, I didn't know this, has already been proven successful in Australia, which has just held its 36th Sikh Games in Adelaide, just early this year in March. And the event has become known as a place which showcases the unique cultural identity of the Australian Sikh community and their inherent Sikh values of inclusion, fair competition and victory. And the Sikh Games have gained support from several accomplished Sikh sports people as well, now acting as ambassadors, including international boxing champions Sangeeta Birdie and Manjinder Nagra. And of course, boxing has become a huge sport for Sikhs here in the UK, and they have achieved enormous success across many weights in the boxing world. And who've represented the UK in rugby internationally. Up-and-coming footballer Karum Singh Mali and Meva Singh Desai, a para-badminton player. And the Games also include entertainment with performances from several well-known Punjabi artists, including Satinder Sartaaj, Jazzy B and Jazz Dami, for the opening ceremonies held on Friday. So there you go, James, the Sikh Games, and what a wonderful event that must have been. I don't know if we've got any pictures. We'll see if we can get some pictures for you. But all in all, a great move forward for the Sikh community, and particularly for Sikh sports. And fingers crossed, all went well. But what a great initiative that must have been. Well done to the Sikh community for pushing that, and well done to the universities for hosting, and of course, well done to the British Forces and the other organisations for sponsoring the event. Let's hope that in years to come we will see it grow and evolve into a much bigger event.
Absolutely, and I remember back in my young years when I was a boxer with the Burnaby Eagles and had a great time, loved it. But unfortunately, at this age and this physical condition, I'd be more set for sumo wrestling, I think. So
yes, I think my boxing career lasted one match in the parachute regiment where I dislocated my shoulder, hitting somebody so hard, unfortunately. His hand stopped my hand. He was a lot bigger than me, I have to say, in my defence, but anyway. Okay, on that painful note, let's move forward on to our comments section. And lots and lots of wonderful comments, as always. So thank you, my daily huge thank you and gratitude to all our commenters who have made such wonderful comments beneath all our videos. So thank you for those. Do keep them coming. So, one of last week's shows, be careful what you wish for. Now, Cruella made a comment. We talked about the riots and the protests and, of course, the resultant clampdown, the state clamping down in a deeply draconian manner. And, of course, that extremely well-written article in Baz News written by Jathedar Singh of the Sikh press agency wrote and understood the nuances of what was happening and understood the bigger picture threat of these riots. Now, ironically, not the threat not coming from the riots, but from the state's reaction to those riots. And of course, the fear here is that, of course, as the state clamps down on these riots and institutes all sorts of draconian legislation as a result, this legislation stays in place and can then be misused and abused against legitimate political protest. And of course, this thus affects directly the Sikh community, who are, of course, well known for standing up to political oppression and oppression of all sorts by taking to the streets. So Cruella actually argues here that, Cruella believes that potentially India may be behind a lot of this. India failed by asking Western countries to stop the Khalistan protests, so they are making sure no one can protest. Indians are the ones that run most of the social media. So the argument here, if I understand correctly, is that actually there is a certain hidden hand of India involved in this, that they are certainly, as we know, as certainly we've reported, they are pushing the right wing here in the UK and across the Western world. They're pushing the right wing to take to the streets. They're saying, yeah, get out there. They're really stirring up the hatred and division, knowing that, of course, the British state will clamp down. So the point here being raised, and a very valid point, is that India is knowing full well where this is leading. And interestingly, the interesting alignment is that the British state, in reaction, is the British state aligning with the Indian state in moving towards a totalitarian regime, as actually many are arguing here in the UK, is that actually now the Starmer government, by bringing in these draconian sentences, increasing the potential sentences for rioters, is that certainly, and of course the hate crime legislation that's coming in, where even now a lady made a comment on Facebook, a pretty, it was not a great comment. It was stirring up hatred, but she's been in prison for several years for making a comment that actually could have been just a bit of a throwaway comment, and that now people are saying, hang on a second, this woman is going to prison for just making a statement on Facebook. What's going on here? Is this now an incremental step that if we now start criticising the government, will we get imprisoned? This is moving like India. Amritpal Singh and his colleagues have fallen foul of this sort of attitude. Is this coming to the West? This is maybe a wake-up call to the West that we need to wake up. So yeah, interesting. And of course, India would promote this, as Cruella rightly points out. And this is an interesting comment from 1S1 and 2, referencing to the same riots. I believe and have been arguing the case that the hate was set up by the Conservatives under Sunak, Patel and Braverman. The plan is to direct the hate towards Sikhs and to influence the demise of freedoms. This is also going to affect Sikhs directly, as Sikhs protest the human rights violations carried out by India. And of course, actually, as you point out, you were right in this very comment as we were talking about this on the show. So in fact, what this does highlight is that we are not alone. And Jathvir's article, as Jathvir wrote that article, is not alone in this belief. Even our commenter came to the same conclusions, is that we need to watch out, do we not, James, that these riots are pushing our own governments to clamp down, not just on rioters, but on legitimate protest, legitimate political protest. We need to worry, don't we, James?
Absolutely, and that's something that we'll be discussing tomorrow night in one of my stories they'll be covering. It was the violence that broke out in Canadian cities during the different events for the India Independence Day. So we'll cover that tomorrow night. But yeah, it's very much an important issue.
Yeah, and back to one a part of this comment where the commenter believes that the hate was set up by Sunak, Patel and Brahman. I don't think it was set up by them. I think it was set up by those behind them. And actually, there are all sorts of agents provocateurs, is the French phrase, all sorts of agents working for the extreme right wing, very much behind the scenes, who are pushing this agenda of hatred and division. And it is coming from all sorts of directions. We know it's coming from India, but it's also coming from certainly the West. We don't know where specifically. These are the people in the shadows that are pushing this awful agenda of division and hatred from both sides. This was an interesting comment, something that James and I have discussed actually behind the scenes. Under the Bang has said, we don't have an hour and a half for your videos, make them shorter. Yeah, that's actually a very important comment that you made here. And but Gurpreet jumped into our defence and says, I don't think the hour and a half is too much to listen to. And basically says to the commenter, you need to learn time management. I think this is a very valid point, actually, and let's open it up to our audience. Our show has evolved into something that's almost run out of control. It's just got longer and longer because there is so much to say, because there are so many messages we need to get out to our audience. So I'm interested, James and I are interested in our audience's thoughts. Do you think the show is too long? Do you think an hour? We try to keep it to an hour, but of course we unfortunately do spill out to about an hour and 10 minutes on many occasions. Do you think our show is too long? A genuine question. Would you like it to be shorter? Would you like us... One thing that James and I have discussed is, well, should we break our show up into separate shows where each story is a separate show? I don't know. We're open to your suggestions. We are here to get the message out, but the question is, how do you want that message to be received? Would you like to watch it in separate, smaller shows, or do you just like the format of the long show where James and I just sit here and witter on for over an hour and read out your wonderful comments for hours on end? We would love to do this for hours. We do, of course, have to keep it within, well, we try to keep it within an hour. We know all of you are busy out there. We appreciate it. But yes, clearly there are some who do watch the whole show. There are some who watch it in parts. What I would say to this commenter under the Bang is, if an hour is too long, why not just pause it, go off and do something else, and when you get a moment, continue the rest of the show, or watch it in parts. And we do deliberately put the chapters. So if there are any bits, if you've only got time to watch bits of it, look at the chapters and fast forward to the chapters of the show. James, any comments on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And something else that you can keep in mind is that you can download the episodes via your YouTube app if you're subscribed to the YouTube Premium. And then you can actually listen to it in the car. You can, because you don't really need to visually see us, especially this mug. But but again, you can listen to the audio in your car and, catch up on it that way. So, but again, it's something that Angus and I have been discussing, and we really need to hear the input from the audience to see what your thoughts are, because you are a part of the show and we're here for you.
Yeah, I suppose we're sort of naturally ended up evolving into following a format that's always very successful on television, particularly here in the UK and many Western countries, is like a talk show where those literally go on for hours, and they just go from one topic to the other and just discuss those topics amongst a panel. So we've sort of almost evolved into that sort of format. But do let us know. The other option is, of course, you can just put your earphones into your device, and when you go to bed at night, is just listen to us and let us send you to sleep. as clearly we are very boring, according to one of our best known critics, who claimed that we were boring. Maybe we can send you off to sleep with a lulling of our voices. Anyway, but do let us know your thoughts on that one.
Some of the old comments, instead of counting sheep, you can count us clowns or us monkeys. That's what we think we were called previously.
Oh yeah, monkeys too. And actually, there was an even better comment, an even ruder one, which unfortunately I can't repeat on air, that our resident rude critic did post up. Unfortunately, we couldn't even air that one. It was so rude. So. Right, Manvir makes a comment. Good job, guys. Well, thank you for your comment. I think there are still some funny goings on regards to messages, comments disappearing. Crazy stuff. Yeah, I suspect there is something going on still. clearly a lot of comments are coming through, which is great news. So do keep commenting, do keep those comments coming. If your comments don't appear, don't forget, sometimes they are filtered out by YouTube. I always go back and myself and approve all those comments that have been filtered out, even the rude ones. Yes, I still approve the critical and rude ones. I do approve those because we're not afraid. We're not that thick-skinned, that thin-skinned, that we are totally, quite willing to read and publicise our critics as well. We believe in free speech, as you well know. Now a great debate opened up. Gurdile Dillon. As is your absolute, we're talking about free speech, as is your prerogative. No to Khalistan. Absolutely, you have every right to disagree with the whole concept of Khalistan. We respect your right to disagree with the whole concept of Khalistan. But of course, there are many who don't agree with that. And Manveer being one of them, who comes in with a very solid response. How astonishingly clever your childish play on the word Khalistan is. You're quite the comedian, aren't you? Etc, etc. So, and of course refers to, you must of course be in fascist Hindutva-led India. Now Gurpreet, of course, wades in as well, robustly responding, saying, well, that's your opinion. And I believe our smart listeners will not be provoked from your thoughts. There's lots of you who can't tolerate it, but the truth will remain the truth. And we are moving towards Khalistan one step at a time. And unsurprisingly, S. Simba, bless him, S. Simba comes in. Again, as always, I'd be disappointed if S. Simba wasn't present in these debates, but he's always reliably there. Keep dreaming. There never will be Khalistan in India. Maybe you can claim the Khalistan and Pakistan side, as 2/3 of Punjab is here. Great point, actually, and I think this is a very good point to make, because of course historically 2/3, or certainly a lot of Khalistan, well, in fact, it went all the way up to Afghanistan. So S. Simba is validly arguing, well, why don't you argue in Pakistan? Gurpreet comes back and says, sorry, we're not buying your whole Pakistan narrative. And we believe in action, not in dreams, and we will continue to do our work. So, it's always great to see these debates. As we said at the beginning, you have every right to disagree with the whole concept of Khalistan, and there are many who do agree with the concept, particularly Hindus, obviously. But on the Sikh side, clearly the majority do support the whole concept. But as we keep arguing, this is the whole point of democracy. Nobody in any democratic debate agrees with one side. There are always people who disagree. That's how democracy works. But the whole point is that democracy works that both sides are heard equally and that the majority rules. And this is what is failing about Khalistan in India and Punjab, is that there is no democracy, is that clearly the majority of people who support Khalistan in Punjab, their voices are being oppressed. They are not allowed to vent their voices. They're not allowed their democratic right to self-determination. So when Gurdile Dillon and S. Simba argue against Khalistan, that is your right. But at least give the Punjab its voice. Allow it to vote on that. Do you believe in democracy? If you do, then you must agree to the whole ability for Punjab to have that vote, to have that right to self-determination. If, as you argue, it's just a fringe element, then you'll be supported. Your argument will win. But at least allow that argument to unfold in the form of a referendum, James.
Absolutely, and that's what democracy is all about. So for a nation to claim that they're democratic in every way, but not to respect the human rights and the right for people to hold peaceful, non-binding, referendums, then that just kind of goes against what they're claiming.
Okay, and I will actually, let me play devil's advocate, as we call it here on the comment section. S. Simba made the point here that actually, why isn't the Khalistan movement pressuring Pakistan? Because of course the Punjab bestrides the border. There is a large section of Punjab in Pakistan. I'll ask my audience, put in the comments, let us know in the comments, why isn't the Khalistan movement more active in Pakistan? Maybe it is, maybe I don't know. Educate us. Come back on S. Simba's comment here. Why isn't the Khalistan movement pushing in Pakistan for the Khalistan movement in the Punjab in Pakistan? I'm genuinely curious what is going on the Pakistan side. Let us know, because of course this will then put down the critics who are saying, well, why aren't you pushing it in Pakistan? It's all very easy in India. So, and again, as I'm playing devil's advocate there, let us know your thoughts on that, on the Pakistan side of Punjab. Okay, rushing on because we are now running out of time. As always, Haresh Gill made a very long but very interesting comment. I've had to highlight just the key parts here because it was a very long and very interesting comment. But time, as always, restricts us to what we can discuss. Now, Haresh Gill has noticed that the Indian Hindutva media didn't cover that march by Dal Khalsa last week, as we reported on, the Freedom March. This is probably done so that not many people know about the actual true support for Khalistan. As we say regularly, is that they're hiding the truth, that the Indian government is afraid that the fact is the majority of people in the Punjab do support the whole concept of Khalistan, and they don't want the rest of India to know this. It's part of their agenda to try and hide the truth, bury the truth. And the argument, when 95% of Sikhs don't support Khalistan, why not hold a referendum? Absolutely. The point we've just made, James, is that not the point? We demand that the Punjab should have self-determination, because if it is 95% who don't support Khalistan, let's prove that fact. Mr. Modi, if that is what you believe, prove it. Let's have that referendum. And then the final part of this comment, which I really wanted to highlight, and this is serious, this. My uncle back in India warned me personally, don't post anything about Khalistan because of the fear of the Punjab police detaining me if I ever travel back to India. Living in fear. This isn't democracy. This is somebody who's been warned by a relative back in India to please don't post anything up about Khalistan because the police will come after us. And if you travel back to India, you'll get arrested. We know this is true. We know this is true. This has been reported on many occasions. I've interviewed many Sikhs in the community who are either too afraid to go back to India because they know they'll be arrested for speaking out, who have relatives in the Punjab who have on a regular basis been intimidated by the police in the Punjab because they in the West have spoken out about Khalistan. Don't forget, this is democratic rule of law India we're talking about. And there's no real Sikh leader talking about Amritpal Singh. The Sikhs are fighting each other for power, wealth and medals, specifically within the Akali Dal, which is a sad thing to see as you put your own personal wealth and status over the rights of your people, which many of Sikhs have done in Punjab. Great final point here. Again, I refer people to the words of the Jathedar of the Akal Takht, who has said, stop being divided. This very point here is that you've got to unite. You've got to listen to the message being sent out by the Jathedar, is that we have to stop fighting each other. And of course, the Akali Dal has been infiltrated. It's divided deliberately. The politics in the Punjab has been deliberately divided by the Indian state. They know what they're doing. They're trying to divide people in the Punjab so that there isn't a united voice, because they fear the united voice of the Sikhs. So, James, any comments on that huge long comment there?
No, I just wanted to go back to the previous one, though. Just a quick one is that there were a lot of promises made by India to the Sikhs prior to partition. So I think that's why we see more action and demand for India as opposed to Pakistan. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly and give my opinion on that. But no, we love all of the opinions, whether it's against us or for us. We love all of the comments, so keep them coming.
Indeed. And final set of comments. Anthros Sapien says, can you guys talk about the Human Rights Report, Oppression in Punjab by Citizens for Democracy, and talk about what the report says about Operation Woodrose? Thank you for this. This was something that I looked up. 1985. There is a copy of this. We believe it might be the entire report. It's very long, but it is an extremely detailed, a fabulously well-researched report written by Citizens for Democracy in India in 1985, shortly after the terrible events of 1984, the genocides, refers to Operation Woodrose and, of course, to Blue Star as well. It is a very comprehensive listing and assessment of the events and the terrible oppression that occurred after 1984 in the Punjab. It lists page after page of individuals who were attacked, who were intimidated, who were extrajudicially killed, etc. It is a fabulous record, a document, an archive of what happened shortly after 1984. It must not be lost and forgotten because, thank you for pointing this out. I probably won't have time to read it because it's huge, but we will take a look at this. And if we have time, we will try and do a report on this. So thank you for pointing it out. And final comment of the show. Cindy Keller, thank you for this lovely comment. I just discovered your show today. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you. Love the content. Really appreciate you both. Well, welcome to our show. Spread the word to all your friends as well. We are trying to increase our audience, as you well know. But it's wonderful that there are still people like Cindy joining us. So welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your comment. Do keep commenting. We love to read your comments. If you have any thoughts, don't be afraid. Put them down in writing and let us know. But unfortunately there, as always, we have run out of time and we must draw the show to a close. But thank you for all those wonderful comments. Do keep those coming in. And if you have anything that you would like to highlight to us, do also send us a message at satledgetv.com if there is something that you would like to bring to our attention, if you certainly don't want to put them in the public comments. But in the meantime, we must wrap the show up. It is a goodbye from me and it is a goodbye from James.
Stay safe, everyone.
You have, of course, been watching Perspectives. We will see you next time.